Hi, guys. Welcome back to Everything Money. It's Paul and Mo. We had the grand honor to interview Mohnish Pabrai in Austin, Texas. We interviewed William Green, the author of Richer, Wiser, Happier, and I was really drawn, Paul, to Mohnish's story, his humble upbringings, almost poor upbringings in India, all the way to making a company and selling a company in his mid-30s to becoming a very famous and successful investor. In very much the let's get shit done mentality that Paul has taught me the last 3 years, I just emailed the guy, and sure enough, he emailed us back. Paul, looking back, we sort of asked him why he said yes to us, because he gets requests every day, and he said, you guys were the first guys who were willing to fly all the way out here and set up a whole interview.
Is that what he said?
Yes. Yeah, I think everyone just asked him to go. Yeah. So it was like we were the first people. And Paul, I'll tell you what, like, people ask me how we get a YouTube channel going. I say, have a really rich guy ready to dump about $500,000 into it over 3 years, and you can do almost anything in the world. So like that trip, I was asking Tim, flights for 5 people, Ubers, rental cars, gear rentals. We went all the way in. We set up.
We even gave our intern his own hotel room with a kitchen in it.
Wasn't that stupid? Anyway, so but guys, it was very Paul. That interview kept me up at night for both in an exciting way and a worrisome way. It kept me up at night for many days, and so. But anyway, we wanted to make this video to sort of reflect on our overall thoughts about who is Mohnish Pabrai. What is he like? What is a great value investor like? What we agreed with him, what we disagreed with him. And so, Paul, take it away. Give us your thoughts. We flew all the way to Austin. We set up for hours. We got to speak to him for about 2 hours. Paul, Mo, give us your thoughts on Mohnish and what he's like.
Well, at lunch, after we did the interview, I said to Mo, I'm like, crap, we forgot to ask him why he agreed to meet with us, because they said he gets 400 or 500 requests a year for interviews. And he says yes to how many? I don't know, 24 maybe, if that. I don't know what the number is, but it's not a ton. And I remember thinking to myself, like, why did he pick up? And then it's funny because yesterday as we were flying home, I remember thinking to myself, maybe he agreed because we were just like, hey, we'll come out to you. And he was probably like, oh, all right, sounds good. Better than, just a video chat or something like that. But Mo, what'd you think of? So tell me your initial thoughts when you first met him. What'd you think?
First, I was like, okay, he's really tall. And then I was like, man, he's such a personable person. But it's almost like he still is that weird value investor that just wants to do his own thing. Like the way he speaks to you, he's just so, he's engaged in conversation with you, but he also wants to go to his office and just sit there and do his thing. And that was my biggest takeaway from, of course I had tons of takeaways, but personality wise, it was like, it's incredible to meet one of the greatest investors of all time, most well-known investors in the value world. And he's just like all of the other ones that you read about. Likes to do their own thing. What's that?
He's just like us. He's just like us. Like he just wanted to. Tim said to me, Mohnish came in. He spoke with us about lunch, and then he took his food to his office and he went to eat by himself. And Tim was like, "You weren't offended by that, were you?" I'm like, "No, Tim. That's exactly what I would have done. If I had 2 random guys come in, I'd be like, it's really nice to meet you guys. We'll talk tomorrow at the interview."
Paul, I was surprised you and I didn't lock eyes more during that interview, because he said so many things that just sounded a lot like what we say on our show and what you say about you. Like he talked about the idea that if you think value investing might speak to you, you might be the type of person who casually on an airplane, instead of like fumbling for your phone and being bored, you're perfectly fine with staring at the seat in front of you and just taking in life. And
he also brought up the Seinfeld analogy, which is a great episode. And he was just like, and they're Elaine's boyfriend. He just stares at the seat in front of you, and it's people undervalue thinking.
Yes,
I joke with my girlfriend Lisa and Mo's girlfriend Nicole that we spend a lot of time just thinking, and I'm like, that's my job. And they're like, oh, it must be nice. I'm like, it actually is pretty nice, but that's what we spend a lot of time doing, is just thinking like, okay, what about this? What about now? The great news for me is I've got so many businesses and real estate and all these things going that if I'm thinking about something, it's not just focused on my personality. It's funny. Did you hear what he said about Charlie Munger? He said, Charlie's the kind of guy that has to be doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I heard that. I'm like, man, I am Charlie Munger. And so, and I don't mean that in a way of like, patting myself on the back. But
yeah.
Yeah, Charlie Munger is a very blunt guy. I'm a very blunt guy. Buffett speaks like everything he's going to say is going to be the cover of the Wall Street Journal. Charlie Munger doesn't give an F. So I look at these things saying, okay, this is good. And by the way, that's the whole point. Totally different people. Look at Munger. Look at Buffett and how he was raised, and Pabrai and how he was raised. Pabrai, poor guy in India. Buffett, the son of a U.S. congressman. Very different upbringings, right? So I look at these things and I'm like, and I'm meeting him and going, oh, what was he dressed like? He was just like this. He was dressed exactly like this.
So it's funny. Well, when we got to Austin, we were going out to dinner. Everybody was wearing jeans and stuff. And Seth was like, Mo, you look like you're going to a volleyball game. So the next day I decided, okay, I won't look like I'm going to a volleyball game. I put on a pair of jeans to go to Mohnish's office. And I was like, he looks like he's going to a volleyball game. Why can't I wear those clothes?
Yeah.
Yes, we were way overdressed.
This is a guy worth a couple $100 million. I don't know how much he's worth, but he's got to be worth a couple $100 million or something like that, a few $100 million. And, he's talking to us about this beautiful multi-million-dollar home he bought in Austin. And we're looking at him going, there's like $12. I mean, I'm a watch guy. Does anybody remember what watch he was wearing?
Yeah, he was wearing an Apple Watch. I checked.
Yeah, he's wearing an Apple Watch. You know what I mean? And I have an Apple Watch.
He was wearing the same kind of shirt that Paul wears with Crossroads Group. It said Pabrai Funds on it. And he was wearing sweatpants that he probably got from Target. Take that back. His girlfriend probably bought it from Target.
So everybody's different, but value investors just like doing what they do. The big takeaway for me. So if you remember, there was a time in the interview and I kind of pushed back a little bit on a point he made, right? I was hoping he wouldn't take it disrespectfully, and I don't think he did. And at the very end of the interview, he goes, I like you. I'm like, oh, thanks. But the reason I did that was I was sitting here saying, Paul, he's no different than you. You're talking to this guy, and if you didn't know who he was, you'd probably sit there and say, yeah, I think you're wrong about this. And at one point, he said something about Microsoft being in the too hard pile. I'm like, but wait a second. Now you'll watch the interview. If you haven't watched the interview yet, go back and watch the interview. You'll see what I said. But I basically pushed back on a point he made, and he kind of conceded. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. And I don't mean that to say, look at me, I got Pabrai. I looked at saying, like, listen, I believed something. And he's a quote-unquote better investor than me, and he thinks about things differently, but doesn't mean that I'm an idiot. I can still push back and say, no, I just think that's an incorrect way of looking at something. Just like, go ahead, Mo.
No, I think if you would have had that conversation with really any value, because when we talk with Gary's a great investor. He's not as well known as Mohnish, but this is when you have discussion, this is the discussion part of value investing that value investors appreciate so much. When you have two great value investors in a room together and having the discussion and just listen, like Paul just said, we like to think. We literally sit there and think. This is a part of the thinking process. They think about things that they didn't think about before. And I think that's when you made that point to Mohnish, I think it was like, I never really thought about that.
And Paul, you said likewise, he brought up some ideas that maybe were swaying your mind. Companies like,
it didn't sway my mind. Tesla. No, Tesla.
Yeah, I was going to say not so much Tesla, but the idea of Tencent, we have a lot of our fans in our community that they're actively asking about Tencent. This is the biggest company in China, Paul, and Mohnish.
Here's what I'll say. Tesla was a bad example because literally God himself could come down and say, Paul, buy Tesla stock. And I would say, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. But if I was teetering on a stock, if Tesla was selling at a range where I was like, okay, I'm close, the things he said would have swayed me over. So that's the important part. I just think Tesla's so overpriced that I wasn't willing to listen to anything. Listen, call me stubborn, call me arrogant, call me whatever you want. Literally nothing you could say would get me to buy Tesla. I just don't understand Tesla. Nothing in this world you could say to me could get me to buy cryptocurrency. I don't care. I just don't get cryptocurrency. But if I was teetering on a stock that was selling, I'm just like, it seems overpriced to me. The things he said about Tesla, if I was teetering on Tesla, would have put me over the mark on Tesla. I'd be like, you know what, Mohnish, you are correct. I'm buying Tesla. Yes. But Tesla currently at its current valuation, sorry, nothing can be said to me that makes me go, I'm going to buy Tesla.
And he did not say that. He was like, now, wouldn't touch it.
Yeah. So
Paul, you brought up cryptos, Paul. I mean, he went full Charlie Munger on. He thinks that the $3 trillion that are invested in crypto will go to zero, in his words.
Were you shocked by that? Those words. And please watch the video because it was amazing. I was shocked when he said it. I was like, oh, okay. Because I actually don't believe that. I think crypto will be around in some form, but I think it's going to be it's just like the internet. I didn't think every internet company was going to zero. I just thought the vast majority would, and they did. I think the vast majority of cryptos are going to zero. I just don't. He thinks the entire market's going to zero. Maybe. I think there'll be a crypto backed by governments, and that'll be the crypto we use. It won't be the crypto everybody talks about today, this independent, anti-government kind of thing. I just think it'll be a lot more involved in society. So I was surprised when he said that. He's like, crypto's a $3 trillion market cap and market size, and the entire world economy is 500 trillion. So it's not really that big, but I think that 3 trillion will go to zero. And I was like, oh,
yep.
I was like, okay,
Guys, I try and be the normal person on the show that brings sort of your normal person questions. And in the end, I've been harping on this for years now. The idea that when Paul brought up the concept of value investing to me, I just thought it was some weird club you were in that like a normal person couldn't be in. It was because it was filled with nerdy weirdos that like to read books all day and play chess. But really, it's a concept of buying a dollar for 50 cents. And so it wasn't until I had you guys in my life and then I read Richer, Wiser, Happier that I started realizing that every value investor thinks the way you do, and it made it less weird of a concept. And so what's funny is, we asked some of his analysts in the office, and he only had 2, Paul, analyzing stocks. We asked about, what was their take on China and their fears about delisting. He actually almost double backed when I asked him, Paul. He said, "What do you mean?" I was like, like the delisting and the VIC, and they made it seem so simple and like not even an issue. But I guess the point is, if you're out there feeling alone, you can watch a Mohnish Pabrai interview and get in our community, and it won't feel like such a strange concept. All of a sudden, Paul, when we walked in and talked to these people, value investing just seemed like the only way. Did you feel that too, Mo?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting real quick. I wanted to say in the interview when he was talking about China, I wanted to say, guys, not once did he bring up VIE. Not once did he bring up all of his concerns. Like, he didn't bring up any of these concerns about China. And it's the things we hear the most. And it just goes to show that people in the general public tend to over dramatize the things that are being discussed. This VIE never once brought it up. Now, granted, he owns shares in Tencent's parent company, not through the US. It's through some other exchange like in Hong Kong or something like that. So that is true. But he used to have Alibaba, and we asked him, and Seth, you asked him, why'd you sell Alibaba? Guys, watch the interview to see why he sold Alibaba. It's very interesting. But go ahead, Mo.
Yeah, so really it was funny. Seth asked the question to one of his analysts, and the analyst like Paul just said, if you take away YouTube and watching maybe CNBC or channels alike, you're just looking at a normal investment, and it doesn't matter what exchange it's in. I think his analyst did say it could be in Mickey Mouse's exchange, and I would be buying it right now. That's exactly what he said. It doesn't matter about VIE structure, exchange. You're buying a company, and that was his main driving home point. You're buying a company. It's a good company. That's it.
In the end, guys, Paul, I think we made a good impression on him. Obviously, if you guys watch the videos, we have them. It's 4 or 5 parts. They'll be linked together, so at the end of the video, you can keep the conversation going. We like to put them in smaller, digestible videos that are more on topic. But in the end, guys, the setup was absurd. It's funny, Paul. I was as we're setting up for hours, I'm thinking, boy, the great way to have a YouTube channel be successful is have a guy that has a background in video and editing, and because I've done like feature films a bit. So anyway, I was just thinking, man, I think we impressed him. I think we're going to have a chance to talk to him in the future.
You think? He literally said the words.
You're right.
Yeah, this is legit. He was like looking around going, I did not think this was going to be coming up. I'm like, yeah, he's like, you guys have a really impressive setup. I'm like, oh, thanks. And
that was the first thing he said when he walked in the room. And
that's
Seth,
right.
It's funny talking about your setup. So Paul, myself, and Nicole are sitting in the conference room with see-through glass going to lunch. And I look at Paul and I see they have all these cameras everywhere and lights. And then Nate is coming in with another like truckload of stuff. I'm like, Paul, what is going on here? And Paul looks over. He's like, how much equipment did we bring? It looked like a CNBC production was going on. It was really incredible. They did a great job.
And Paul,
go ahead.
I was going to say, Tim also noticed one of the first things he said when the interview was over. He's like, what are we doing with this? Like, how do we harness this? It was like, he couldn't say it fast enough. And then he said, Paul, he said, Guy Spears is going to be in town here coming next year. March. And Tim was like, do we get all these guys in a little round table room? So who knows, guys? I think we we planted a nice seed of and started a nice relationship. So we're excited to talk to him in the future. So that is
we got to make that happen. We do have to make that happen. If it's all of us talking in a roundtable kind of discussion, then I think that would be very useful.
That would be so much fun and very useful for us and everybody.
There are more interviews.
I want to come up with some fun questions, like I said in the group chat today.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. So yeah, folks,
imagine asking Mohnish. Okay, Mohnish, which superpower would you rather have, invisibility or flying? Go, tell us why. Like fun. That's the thing. My goal for this channel is we got to make money fun because money is so important. And you're not just like working out. If you don't make working out fun, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
This whole idea of having to suffer in order to do what's right is a terrible idea. Like I understand sacrifice, but try to figure out a way to make something fun. Like I've had how many personal trainers in the last 10 years? I finally found one that's fun, right? And that's why I work out more. She's a fun person. She's nice. We get along well. She's friends with my girlfriend, all these things. You know what I mean? It's like the previous 3 trainers, I was like, these people suck. I hated working out with them. You know what I mean? It's like they were just not fun people. That's the same thing. We got to make money fun. And I want to bring fun questions to these investors instead of everybody asking them the same questions. What do you look for in a company? It's like, God, that's such an annoying question. I'll be like, you know what? If we ever became famous enough for people interviewing me, what do you look for in a company? One in which it makes a lot more money than I expect them to make. Next question. Like, I'm just going to answer stupid. It's not a stupid answer, but I'm just going to ask generic because it's like, and I'm going to tell that to everybody. Don't ask me boring questions. If you ask me boring questions, I'm going to leave.
Yeah. Our interview was so unique. We came at it from a totally different perspective. These are questions that people probably didn't know the answers to because people probably never asked them. And this is one of the most important part of his life, this gap that we filled with a lot of our questions in the first part of the discussion. It was really great. I've watched a lot.
About starting his business. I've never seen any interview where he talks about the business. And he talks so much about the business that he started, that he sold for $6 million in 2000.
Yeah, and nobody asks those questions. They're always cookie cutter questions, and he did. I think he really appreciated that because it has to get boring to do the same interview over and over and over.
Yeah. That's our take, guys. That's our thoughts on Mohnish Pabrai. Check out the 4 or 5 part series we put out. There's other interviews about William Green. We interviewed Jerry Parker, the complete TurtleTrader, and there's more to come. We've reached out to some of these famous value investors, and hopefully they'll take our emails. So that's our take, guys. Final thumbs up. Join the community. Tickle the like, and watch the Mohnish Pabrai interview. You're gonna love them, guys. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon. See you guys.